When I say I'm frugal, just to be clear, that's different from me removing myself from the joys of life. In this process of frugality, it is about managing money in a way that prioritizes things that are important to me and not wasting my hard earned cash on things that just aren't. If you're new to my channel, my name is Anna, and here we talk money matters. If this interests you, I'd appreciate if you hit that like button and subscribe. Now let's get started. When I think about what's important, it's not the expensive jewelry, the flashy car, designer purses, or clothes. I've never owned a Louis Vuitton, a Chanel, or even a Tory Burch purse. Never owned anything from Tiffany's. And I told my boyfriend at the time and now husband not to bother buying me an expensive or even a real diamond ring for that matter. He never listened to real part, but I digress. But anyway, it was enough for me just to admire from afar the 2 or 3 carat diamond rings that my peers got as they were getting engaged one by one. I didn't care for something like that myself. One of the benefits of frugality is that it changes the mindset of thinking that you need to run the rat race until your 60s, which is something that I thought for the longest time. But when you take control of your spending and you fight against upgrading everything that you own, including your home, and you learn to do things for yourself from watching tutorials on YouTube, suddenly it's not only easy, but fun to find ways to save for the things that really matter to you. I am frugal because now I'm more intentional with money and find that the things that I enjoy don't really cost much or anything at all, like sleeping in or reading a book that I got from the library or taking the kids to the playground while I exercise. I love enjoying life at a leisurely pace without rushing between getting the kids to their various activities and working without barely fitting in enough time to sleep, exercise, and read, which are the things that I really enjoy. I am frugal because I don't want the lack of savings and financial resources to limit my ability to say no to situations that I don't want to put myself in. I am frugal so that I don't have to stay in a job that I dread waking up to in the morning, and I've been there in my 20s and just never again. I am frugal because I don't want my freedom to be controlled by the power of someone else. Money gives you options, pulling you away from the idea that someone else's opinion or desires should control what you do day to day. If you're like me, you like to sit at a beach all day if you could. When I'm on my annual vacation to Mexico, I found that without being intentional about it and just being away from my computer and not staring at a computer screen all day, I was physically active 5 days a week, averaging double my steps per day and just blowing past my vigorous workout minutes to 340 minutes per week, just by having a blast playing sand volleyball at the beach. That is more than 3 times the standard vigorous workout minutes that I would normally get, which would be required to be scheduled, and I'd have to motivate myself to do this exercise after a long day of work. It was a shocking reminder that sitting in front of a computer 9 to 12 hours a day is just not natural for us as humans, and certainly not healthy. We were meant to be active, moving around throughout the day, and since then it's been a priority for me to figure out how to live this beach life sooner than later on a more regular basis. I know that if I spend less, I will be less reliant on a paycheck, which means that I'm closer to finding myself settled a few extra days at that beach resort eating fresh papaya by the sand. I am frugal because I don't want to spend my entire life paying off debt. I've been enslaved from the student loan debt chains long enough. Sadly, I was one of those people when finding myself saddled with over $250,000 in student loan debt after law school. I felt stuck and started to think that I would need to ride out the loan forgiveness program and be enslaved to this debt for the next 25 years. Well into my 50s, when my dreams of coming out of school with a high paying lawyer job just didn't pan out. And I ended up taking a job during the Great Recession when I made less money than I would have had I just stayed at my former CPA job working full time before I went to law school. But with making some critical financial decisions since then, prioritizing debt payoff and increasing savings, I know that I do not want to spend my entire life figuring out how to pay off debt, nor do I want my kids to worry about debt for their entire lives as well. I am frugal because I do not want to lose appreciation for the things that I already have. When I got married, not long after, we uprooted ourselves from our lives in the US to move to China and lived in small apartment units. We had both our children there, and during that time, one of our expat friends once asked us why we lived in cramped units practically on top of each other. We didn't have a lot of money, and during our stay in China, none of the units had a dryer, so everything had to be hung dry, which was a really slow process since we lived in a subtropical climate with high humidity. But we managed it. It wasn't until we were facing serious bug issues in the warmer climate that made me decide it was time enough to go ahead and return back to the US. Our first purchase was a 3-bedroom townhome, just over 1,400 square feet in comparison to where we lived in China. I thought the place was so clean and so huge, and it had a dryer. But the appreciation and novelty of the townhome wore off as our kids approached school age, and we prioritized finding schools that had language programs that we were looking for. And so in 2 years, we moved to a home that was 50% bigger inside, but actually also had a backyard with a garden space and a pool. But from 2020 and on, almost all of our closest friends had moved onto bigger homes that were like 2 times bigger than our home at 4,000 to 5,000 square feet and twice the cost. So once again, I found myself lacking appreciation for what we had, and honestly, I really wanted that large home too. It was this lack of appreciation that made me sit back and realize that being frugal would reset my brain to remember how to appreciate the things that I had once again. Just like how I'm frugal because eating out all the time makes it lose that novelty. Making meals at home makes the times that we do go out more enjoyable. I'm frugal because by being so, I know that if there's something that I really want, then the money is there, like spending my summers in Seoul and our children's winter breaks in Mexico. And being able to replace my Fitbit yesterday without worrying about whether or not I could afford it because the battery couldn't hold a charge after a little over 2.5 years of use. Because when we choose not to spend money on things like new clothes every season, it allows me to say yes to things like this. As I mentioned in my last video, our family of 4 spent only $44 in total in clothing as a household over these past 4 months into the year. I'm frugal because I found ways to make it fun. When there's something that we need, it becomes fun to make it a challenge to see how we can get what we need for as cheap as possible, or if it's a service, finding out if it's something that we can learn to fix ourselves rather than bringing in a stranger into our home. Frugal living isn't something that is on my mind, but rather now is becoming automatic, like your retirement contributions before spending should be. I'm frugal because it makes me worry less about losing something or damaging something of high value. Like if I upgraded and got a 3-carat diamond ring, would I spend and waste even more money to insure it? Makes no sense. Or getting that fancy car. It's funny watching people with expensive cars park far away from other cars, making their trips even more inconvenient to protect it. I'm good with my Honda with much less fear that somebody might accidentally ding it. Even much less fear with my husband's 2005 car. When I was in my corporate job, my go-to purse was a Michael Kors brand tote, spending about $100 at Marshall's. I remember being afraid to carry drinks in my tote purse in fear that I might spill and damage the $100 bag. Since then, I use my $40 Nine West purse, and it's been freeing just not to worry about that it might be damaged, so my water bottle can go in there carefree. And I've had no spills yet since then. When you make some key life adjustments, keeping your expenses low, you find that you can build a nice financial cushion much quicker. And then your reliance on your current income level just isn't there anymore. Less stress and more time for you and for those who are important to you. Anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to hit that like button and subscribe. See you in my next video.